Rick Stevens laughed, not a polite chuckle, a full, condescending laugh, the kind of laugh that says, "I can't believe I'm wasting my time with this idiot." It was Tuesday morning, March 15th, 2011. Rick owned Stevens John Deere in Marshalltown, Iowa. Had owned it since 1989, built it into the largest dealership in Marshall County, sold millions in equipment annually. Rick was successful, confident, and at this moment, amused. Standing in front of his desk was Walter Price, age 67, wearing dirty work boots, faded Carhartt jacket with grease stains, old jeans with patches. Walter farmed somewhere south of town. Rick didn't know exactly where or how much. Walter wasn't one of Rick's regular customers, maybe came in once every few years for parts. Walter had just said, "I want to buy 12 John Deeres today." Rick laughed. 12 tractors? Today? You want to buy 12 tractors today? Yes. Walter, do you know what 12 tractors cost? Even used ones? Depends on the models. Let's say, I don't know, average $40,000 each for decent used inventory. That's $480,000. You're telling me you want to spend $500,000 today? Closer to $560,000, actually. I need specific models. Rick's smile faded slightly. This wasn't a joke. Walter was serious, but that made it worse. Rick assumed Walter was delusional or having some kind of episode. "Walter, I appreciate your business, but I think we need to be realistic here. Why don't you tell me what you actually need and we'll—" "I need 12 tractors, different models. I have a list." Walter pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket, placed it on Rick's desk. Rick picked it up, read, 3 4440s, 1978-1982 models, 2 4640s, 1979-1983 models, 3 4430s, 1975-1979 models, 2 4230s, 1973-1977 models, 2 4020s, 1968-1972 models. Rick looked up. "This is very specific. I know what I need. And you want all 12 today? If you have them. I don't keep 12 used tractors on the lot. I'd have to source most of these." "Do you have any of them?" Rick thought. He had 2 4440s currently, 1980 and 1981 models. Had a 4430 from 1977. Had one 4640 from 1982, so 4 total that matched Walter's list. "I have 4 that fit your requirements. I'll take those 4 today. How long to get the other 8? Rick was getting annoyed. This was wasting his time. "Walter, let's be honest. You can't afford this. 4 tractors at $40,000 each is $160,000. You're not going to write a check for $160,000 today." Walter reached into his jacket, pulled out a checkbook. "Plain green checks, nothing fancy. How much for the 4 you have?" Rick was about to end this conversation, tell Walter to stop wasting his time, but something made him check his inventory system. The 1980 4440 was listed at $38,500. The 1981 4440 at $41,200. The 1977 4430 at $34,800. The 1982 4640 at $47,900. Total $162,400. Rick said the number, expecting Walter to flinch, make excuses, leave. Walter opened his checkbook. "Make the check to Stevens John Deere?" "You're serious?" "Completely serious." Walter wrote the check, tore it out, placed it on Rick's desk. Rick picked it up, stared at it. $162,400, signed by Walter Price. Account at First National Bank of Marshalltown. "Walter, I need to verify this check." "Of course." Rick called the bank, asked to verify funds. The banker confirmed. Walter Price had $2,340,000 in his checking account. The check would clear. Rick hung up, looked at Walter with completely different eyes. "You have $2.3 million in your checking account." "Yes." How did you?" Rick stopped himself, unprofessional to ask, but he was shocked. Walter smiled, small, knowing smile. "Rick, you laughed at me 10 seconds ago. Thought I was a crazy old man who couldn't afford a riding mower, much less 12 tractors. You want to know how I have this money?" "I'm curious, yes." "I'll tell you. But first, let's finish this transaction. I want those 4 tractors delivered to my farm by end of day, and I want you to source the other 8 within 2 weeks. Can you do that? Rick was still processing. Yes, I can source them. But Walter, those 8 will cost another, probably $300,000 to $350,000 total. That's fine. And you'll pay cash, full amount? I'll pay cash for all 12. Rick's calculator was running numbers. 12 tractors, average $45,000, total around $540,000. His profit margin on used equipment was typically 22 to 28%. Call it 25% on this deal. That's $135,000 profit from one customer in one transaction. Largest single deal Rick had ever done. Walter, why do you need 12 tractors? I don't need them. I'm buying them for other farmers. You're what? I'm buying tractors for young farmers who can't afford them, giving them away, or selling them at cost with no interest financing. Rick blinked. You're giving away $500,000 in tractors? Approximately. Why? Walter sat down in the chair across from Rick's desk. Let me tell you a story. It starts in 1978. I was 44 years old, farming 320 acres I'd bought in 1968. I had one tractor, a 1959 Farmall 560. Paid for. Old, reliable. I maintained it myself. Rick listened. In 1979, my neighbor lost his farm. Harold Thompson. Good farmer, good man. Got caught in debt. Had bought new equipment in 1976. Borrowed heavy. When rates went up and prices went down, he couldn't make payments. Bank foreclosed. Harold lost 480 acres his family had farmed since 1920. Walter paused. Harold's equipment went to auction. His 1974 John Deere 4430. Beautiful tractor. Only 2,800 hours. Bank was selling it. Starting bid was $8,000, less than half what Harold owed on it. I went to that auction with $12,000 I'd saved over 10 years. I bid on the 4430. Won it for $11,200. Took it home. Now I had 2 tractors, my old Farmall and Harold's 4430. Rick was following, but didn't see the relevance. Here's what I learned at that auction, Rick. There were 80 people there, watching a good farmer lose everything. Most of them were there hoping to get deals, vultures picking at a carcass, but a few were there because they understood that Harold's failure wasn't unique. It was a pattern, and patterns meant opportunity. Walter continued. Over the next 10 years, 1979 to 1989, I attended 43 farm auctions, bought equipment at every single one, tractors, combines, planters, implements, always paid cash, always bought low because I was buying from desperate banks. By 1989, I owned 17 tractors. Not for farming, I only needed 2. The other 15 were sitting in sheds on my property. I'd bought them for an average of $9,000 each. Total investment, $135,000. But they were worth at least $20,000 each by then, some more. Asset value, $300,000 plus. Rick started understanding. In 1990, a young farmer named Michael Chen came to see me. 26 years old, wanted to farm but couldn't get equipment financing. No credit history, no collateral. Banks wouldn't touch him. Michael heard I had tractors, asked if I'd sell him one. I sold Michael a 1976 4430 for $12,000, exactly what I'd paid for it at auction in 1984. No profit, but I did it on terms. $1,000 down, $200 per month for 5 years, 0 interest. Walter smiled at the memory. Michael farmed with that tractor for 8 years, paid it off in 1995, came back, bought another tractor from me, same terms. By 2000, Michael owned 640 acres. Still farms today, still uses those tractors I sold him. I did the same thing 32 times between 1990 and 2010, sold tractors to young farmers who couldn't get financing. Some paid cash, but most did payment plans. 0 interest. I made 0 profit on the equipment itself. But here's what happened. Every single farmer I helped became successful. They remembered who helped them when banks wouldn't. They sent me other young farmers. Word spread. Rick was fascinated but still confused. Walter, how does helping people make you $2.3 million? It doesn't. That came from land. Walter leaned forward. While everyone else was buying equipment in the 1970s and going broke in the 1980s, I was saving money. My only debt was my original land payment, which I paid off in 1981. No equipment debt, no expansion debt, just saving. Between 1982 and 1995, I bought 11 farms at auctions, paid cash for everyone, average price $840 per acre, total 1,680 acres purchased for about $1.4 million. Today, that land is worth $3,800 to $4,200 per acre. Total value, $6.3 to $7 million. Rick did quick math. Walter's net worth was at least $6 million, maybe more. So why are you buying 12 tractors today? Rick asked. Because I'm 77, don't have kids. Wife died in 2008. I'm selling my land, all 2,000 acres this year. Already have a buyer at $4,000 per acre, $8 million. After taxes and expenses, I'll net about $6.2 million. I'm giving $4 million to establish a foundation, the Walter Price Agricultural Foundation. It'll provide zero-interest equipment loans to young farmers who can't get conventional financing. The foundation will buy equipment at auctions and sell it at cost to qualified borrowers. But first, I want to help 12 farmers immediately. 12 young people I've identified who are trying to start but can't get equipment. I'm buying them tractors. Some I'll give outright, some I'll sell at cost with zero-interest terms, but all 12 will get tractors they otherwise couldn't afford. Walter looked at Rick directly. You laughed at me when I walked in. Thought I was a crazy old man in dirty boots who couldn't afford a lawnmower. You judged me by appearance. That's why I wanted to tell you this story. You never know who has money. You never know who's been quietly accumulating wealth while everyone else was flashing and failing. Rick felt embarrassed. Walter, I apologize. I shouldn't have laughed. You should apologize to yourself. You almost missed a $540,000 sale because you made assumptions. How many other customers have you turned away because they didn't look right? Rick had no answer. Walter stood. I want those 4 tractors delivered today. Source the other 8 within 2 weeks. I'll pay cash for all 12. And Rick, in the future, maybe listen before you laugh. You might learn something. Walter left. Rick sat at his desk, holding a $162 to $400 check, feeling like he'd just been educated. The 4 tractors were delivered to Walter's farm that afternoon. Rick personally drove one of them, wanted to see Walter's operation. Walter's farm was immaculate, 2,000 acres, perfectly maintained, buildings old but solid, equipment everywhere, 17 tractors in various sheds, all maintained, all operational. Rick asked, why so many tractors if you're just farming? I told you, I buy them at auctions, maintain them, sell them to young farmers. These 17 are waiting for buyers. Within 6 months they'll all be on farms helping young people start. Rick looked around. This was a multi-million-dollar operation that looked like a small hobby farm from the road. Walter drove a 1998 Ford F-150 with rust on the fenders, lived in a modest house, wore dirty work clothes. Nothing about his appearance suggested wealth. Walter, why do you live so simply if you have this much? Walter smiled. Because spending money doesn't make you happy. Helping people does. I've given away or sold at cost probably $2 million in equipment over 30 years. Every tractor that goes to a young farmer is worth more to me than a new truck or a vacation. Rick delivered the other 8 tractors over the next 12 days. Each time, he learned more about Walter's philosophy. The 12 farmers receiving tractors ranged from age 24 to 36. 8 of them got tractors completely free. 4 paid cost, with zero-interest 5-year terms. All 12 were people Walter had researched. Serious, hard-working, good character, just needed a break. One recipient was Sarah Mitchell, aged 29, trying to start farming after working as a teacher for 6 years. She received a 1979 44440 worth $39,000 free, cried when Walter told her. Another was David Rodriguez, aged 33, whose father had lost their family farm in 2003. David had been saving for 8 years to buy equipment, received a 1980 4640 worth $44,000, 0 interest terms, 300 month for 5 years. Total payback, $18,000, less than half the tractor's value. Rick watched these deliveries, saw the impact. These weren't handouts to lazy people. These were investments in hard-working farmers who needed opportunity. The last delivery was in early April 2011. A 1982 4640 to Michael Chen, the first farmer Walter had helped back in 1990. Michael now owned 640 acres, was successful, and was paying forward by mentoring the 12 new farmers. "Michael, this is a gift," Walter said. "You don't owe me anything. You already paid me back by succeeding. Now I want you to help these 12 the way I helped you." Michael accepted with gratitude. After the delivery, Rick and Walter talked. Rick asked, "What happens to your foundation after you're gone?" "I've set up trustees. The foundation has $4 million endowed. Conservatively invested, it'll generate about $160,000 per year. That's enough to help 3 to 4 farmers annually in perpetuity. Long after I'm dead, young farmers will get equipment they otherwise couldn't afford." Rick was moved. "Walter, I've been in this business 32 years. I've never met anyone like you. That's because most people with money want everyone to know it. I never cared about showing off. I cared about impact." The Walter Price Agricultural Foundation launched officially in August 2011. By 2024, 13 years later, it has helped 47 young farmers start operations. Current endowment, $6, $2 million, grown through conservative investment and additional donations. Walter died in January 2019 at age 85. His funeral was attended by over 300 people. 84 of them were farmers he'd personally helped. They came from 5 states. Each told stories of how Walter changed their lives. Sarah Mitchell, the teacher who received the free 40/40 in 2011, spoke at the funeral. "Walter gave me a tractor worth $40,000, but he gave me something more valuable, belief that I could farm. That belief became 380 acres I now own free and clear. Walter didn't give me a tractor. He gave me a future." Rick Stevens closed his dealership in 2022, retired wealthy. But he thinks about Walter often. About that morning in March 2011 when a man in dirty boots asked to buy 12 tractors and Rick laughed. "I learned more from Walter in 15 minutes than I learned in 30 years selling equipment," Rick said in 2023. "He taught me that wealth isn't about flash, it's about impact, and the richest people are often the ones who look the poorest." Rick now volunteers with the Walter Price Foundation, helping identify young farmers who need equipment. He's helped secure 42 tractors for borrowers since 2019. The farmer walked into the dealership wanting 12 John Deeres. The dealer laughed, then got shocked when the check cleared. But the real shock was learning what real wealth looks like, not in new trucks and fancy clothes, but in helping others succeed. 77-year-old man in dirty boots changed 47 lives with used tractors bought at auctions. Most people never knew he had millions. That's exactly how he wanted it, because when you're truly rich, you don't need anyone to know. But the story of Walter Price deserves deeper examination. How does someone accumulate $6 million while giving away millions in equipment? The answer lies in discipline, patience, and perfect timing. Walter was born in 1934, grew up on a farm during the Depression's tail end. His father lost their farm in 1939 to debt. Walter remembered the auction, strangers picking through their possessions, his father's shame, his mother's tears. That memory shaped everything. When Walter bought his first 320 acres in 1968 for $186,000, he borrowed $136,000 at 7.2%. High debt for that era, but Walter had a plan. Pay it off in 10 years instead of the standard 25. He paid $1,680 monthly, $20,660 annually, plus every extra dollar he could save. His neighbors thought he was insane. Why pay extra? Enjoy life. But Walter remembered his father's auction, remembered what debt does. By 1978, Walter's land was paid off. 10 years, not 25. He'd paid $204,000 total, $136,000 principal, plus $68,000 interest. If he'd taken 25 years, he'd have paid $204,000 principal plus $176,000 interest, $380,000 total. Walter saved $176,000 through aggressive payoff. That $176,000 savings became the foundation of his equipment buying strategy. Harold Thompson's auction in 1979 was Walter's first equipment purchase. Harold's 1974 4430 had 2,800 hours, worth $28,000 at the time. Harold owed $9,400 on it. Bank sold it for $11,200, less than Walter paid. Walter bought it as a spare tractor, but quickly realized the broader opportunity. If good equipment was selling for 40 to 50% of value at auctions, and if auctions were happening monthly across Iowa, then accumulation was possible. Between 1979 and 1989, Walter attended 43 auctions. Bought carefully. Only equipment he knew was reliable. Only John Deere 4020s, 4230s, 4430s, 4440s, 4640s, the proven models. Nothing experimental. Nothing risky. His purchases, 1979, 1 4430, 11200, 1980, 2 4230s, 9400 and 9800, 1981, 1 4440, 14200, higher because less foreclosures that year, 1982, 3 4430s, 8200, 8400, 8900, 1983, 4 4440s, 7800, 8100, 8600, 8900, 1984, 2 4640s, 11200, 11800, 1985, 3 4430s, 6900, 7100, 7400, 1986, 2 4020s, 4800, 5100, 1987, 1 4440, 9200, 1988, 2 4230s, 8100, 8400, 1989, 1 4640, 12200 total tractors purchased, 23, total spent, $256,600, average per tractor, $8,139. These tractors had retail value between $18,000 and $38,000 each, depending on model and condition. Walter's total asset value, approximately $580,000. He turned $205,600 into $580,000 through patient auction buying, but Walter didn't keep them as investments. He used them to help others. Between 1990 and 2010, Walter sold or gave away 32 tractors to young farmers. Let's examine some of those transactions. Michael Chen, 1990. Received 1976, 44430, bought for $8,400 at auction. Walter sold it to Michael for $12,000, not the $8,400 he'd paid because Walter had invested $3,200 in maintenance and refurbishment. Engine rebuild, new tires, hydraulic work, total investment $11,600. Sale price $12,000. Profit $400. Terms $1,000 down, $200 month for 5 years, 0 interest. Michael farmed 180 rented acres initially. That 4430 allowed him to quit his factory job, farm full-time. By 1995, Michael owned 240 acres. By 2000, 480 acres. By 2010, 640 acres free and clear. Current net worth, approximately $2.8 million. Return on Walter's $12,000 investment, immeasurable. Michael has mentored 19 other young farmers since 2005. Jennifer Walsh, 1994, age 29, wanted to farm but couldn't get equipment financing. Parents lost their farm in 1986. Jennifer grew up bitter about agriculture, but loved it anyway. Needed a tractor. Walter sold her a 1979 4230 he'd bought for $9,800 in 1980, had maintained it for 14 years. Total investment, $14,200, original cost plus maintenance. Sold to Jennifer for $14,200, exact cost. Terms, $2,000 down, $250 month for 4 years, 0 interest. Jennifer farmed 160 rented acres. Struggled initially. 1995 was a tough year. Missed 3 months of payments. Walter called her, asked if she needed help. Jennifer was embarrassed, said she'd catch up. Walter said, "Jennifer, I'm not calling to pressure you. I'm calling to see if you need more time. Take 6 months off payments. We'll extend the term." Jennifer cried, caught up after harvest, never missed another payment. Paid off the tractor in 2000, took 6 years instead of 4, but paid it. By 2010, Jennifer owned 320 acres. By 2020, 560 acres. Current net worth, $2.1 million. She's helped 12 young women get started in farming, providing mentorship and sometimes co-signing loans. David Rodriguez, 1997. Age 23, whose father lost their farm in 1993 to bankruptcy. David grew up watching his father's shame. Worked construction for 5 years, saved $18,000, wanted to farm, but couldn't get equipment. Walter gave David a 1982 44440 worth $32,000. Free, no payment, no terms, just, "Your father was a good farmer who got unlucky with timing. You deserve a chance to prove you inherited his skill without inheriting his debt." David was speechless. Took the tractor, farmed 200 rented acres for 3 years, saved aggressively, bought 240 acres in 2000 for $1,640 acre, expanded to 480 acres by 2008. In 2011, David came to Walter with a proposal. "I want to pay you for that tractor you gave me. I can afford it now. I want to pay the full $32,000. Walter refused. "You already paid me by succeeding." "That's the payment I wanted," David insisted. They compromised. David donated $32,000 to the Walter Price Agricultural Foundation when it launched. That money helped 3 other farmers get equipment. These stories repeated 32 times between 1990 and 2010. Walter helped farmers who became successful, who then helped others. A multiplying effect. But Walter's real wealth came from land. His strategy was simple. While others borrowed to expand during booms, Walter saved to buy during crashes. 1982, bought 160 acres at foreclosure auction for $720 acre. Total, $115,200, paid cash from savings. 1985, bought 240 acres, estate sale for $680 acre. Total, $163,200, paid cash. 1987, bought 320 acres, divorce settlement forced sale for $820 acre. Total, $262,400, paid cash. 1989, bought 240 acres, retirement sale for $890 acre. Total, $213,600, paid cash. 1992, bought 160 acres, foreclosure for $850 acre. Total, $136,000, paid cash. 1995, bought 240 acres, estate sale for $1,020 acre. Total, $244,800, paid cash. 1998, bought 160 acres, retirement for $1,280 acre. Total, $220,800, paid cash. 2002, bought 160 acres, foreclosure for $1,520 acre. Total, $243,200, paid cash. Total land purchased between 1982 to 2002, 1,680 acres for $1,599,200. By 2011, when Walter met with Rick Stevens, his total land holdings were 2,000 acres, original 320 plus 1,680 purchased. At $4,000 acre, total value $8,000 to $1,000. Walter's ability to buy land with cash during crises gave him negotiating power. At auctions, cash buyers got better prices. At estate sales, cash offers closed faster. Walter's discipline created opportunity. But here's what made Walter different. He didn't flaunt wealth, never bought new vehicles, never took expensive vacations, never built a showpiece house. His 1968 farmhouse was comfortable but modest. His truck was a 1998 F-150 with 240,000 miles. His clothes came from Farm Fleet, not designer stores. Rick Stevens learned this lesson dramatically that March 2011 morning. Rick had spent 30 years judging farmers by appearance. New truck? Probably successful. Old truck? Probably struggling. Designer boots? Serious farmer, dirty boots, small timer. Walter proved that equation backwards. The 12 tractors Walter bought in 2011 were distributed to specific farmers over 3 months. 1. Sarah Mitchell, age 29, free, 1979, 4440, $39,000 value. Sarah was a teacher earning $38,000 a year, had saved $22,000, wanted to farm, but equipment financing required $45,000 plus annual income. Walter gave her a tractor worth more than her annual salary. Free, Sarah farmed 140 rented acres her first year, netted $18,000, quit teaching, farmed full-time. By 2024, owns 380 acres worth $1.6 million. 2. David Rodriguez, age 33. Cost basis, 1980. 4640, $44,000 value. Terms, 300 month for 5 years, 0 interest. Total payback, $18,000. David had been saving for 8 years, had $23,000, could buy a worn-out tractor for $15,000 or get a good one from Walter on terms. Chose Walter's offer, paid it off in 4 years, saved the 5th year's payments, bought 80 acres in 2015, now owns 480 acres. 3. Thomas Murphy, age 26, free, 1981, 44440, $41,000 value. Thomas's father committed suicide in 2004 after losing farm to foreclosure. Thomas worked oil fields for 6 years, made good money but hated it, wanted to farm despite family tragedy. Walter gave him a tractor worth 2 years of Thomas's oil field salary. Thomas cried, farmed. By 2024 owns 320 acres and runs a successful livestock operation. 4 to 12, similar stories. Each farmer received equipment worth $34,000, $47,000. 4 got it free. 5 paid cost basis on 0 interest terms. 3 paid slightly above cost on 0 interest terms. Total Walter gave away or subsidized approximately $280,000 in value. By 2024, those 12 farmers collectively own 3,140 acres, worth approximately $16.1 million. All profitable, all thriving, all because Walter gave them opportunity. Walter's foundation continues. Since 2011, has helped 47 farmers total. Average assistance, $38,000 per farmer. Total deployed, $1.79 million. But the Foundation's endowment has grown from $4 million in 2011 to $6.2 million in 2024 through conservative investment. The Foundation will help farmers forever. Long after everyone forgets Walter's name, young farmers will get equipment they otherwise couldn't afford. Rick Stevens thinks about that March 2011 morning often, how he laughed at Walter, how wrong he was, how much he learned. I'd been in business 32 years and thought I knew everything, Rick said in 2023. 10 minutes with Walter taught me I knew nothing about wealth. Real wealth isn't flash, it's impact. Walter impacted more lives with dirty boots and used tractors than I did selling millions in new equipment. Rick now tells that story to every young salesperson. Never judge by appearance. The richest person you meet might look the poorest. Listen before you laugh. You might learn something. The farmer walked into the dealership wanting 12 John Deeres. The dealer laughed, thinking he was crazy, then got shocked when the check cleared. But the real lesson wasn't about the money. It was about what money can do when wielded by someone who values impact over image. Walter Price proved that $6 million in dirty boots changes more lives than $60 million in designer clothes. Because when you're truly wealthy, you don't need to look it, you just need to use it well.